Hey, this is Nicole Kelly, host of Loud and Proud. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Sam Kirby, host of Cinema Stories here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Cinema Stories, where we hang out and just talk movie and TV news and reviews, and it's awesome. A new show comes out every single Tuesday. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of Cinema Stories. Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Beauties and Headcanons, where we're nerdy and you probably are too. This is Emily, and I'm here this week with Danny Domer, who I would call a Star Wars expert, but maybe he has something else to say. And we're here to talk nerdy to you. So thanks, Danny, so much for being on the show this week. How about you tell everyone a little bit about you and your Star Wars story?
Sure, thanks, Emily. I grew up with Star Wars since I was 3. I've memorized the first 6 movies.
Wow.
And, I know the foreign languages. I know the cue scenes, entries and exits. I don't have to look at it without knowing what's going on. So
that is very impressive, I have to say. I didn't realize in such detail that you knew Star Wars. So that's awesome. I guess we've got the right guy on the show today.
I like to think you do.
I think so. Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about a series from Star Wars Episode VIII. And we're going to be talking about Han Solo. And for those of you who have not seen this episode 7 yet, spoilers, Han Solo dies. So if you haven't seen it yet, you probably should see it. just saying, that's going to be on you. And also, if you saw the title to this episode, you might already know, what happened anyway. So just letting you know. So, okay. So the theory goes like this. It's basically the question, did Han Solo know he was going to die when he went to meet Kylo Ren? And so we're going to explore that. I saw a video on YouTube by Super Carlin Brothers. I've talked about their videos before. They do everything from like Disney to Marvel to Star Wars to Pixar, all those things, which is a lot of fun because I do a lot of that stuff on the podcast here. But I also saw a post on Reddit by Spody Girl as well, and who asked the same question. Did Han Solo know he was going to die before he even went to go meet Kylo Ren? So let's talk about evidence for and against this theory and see where we come out here. Danny, what are some of your thoughts on that? I know you mentioned earlier when we were just chatting, some things you noticed the last time that you watched the movie. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about those.
Sure. So, last time I watched it, I kind of skipped through the Han Solo scenes just to kind of get a good focus on what he was doing, for this theory. So, he had set himself up to kind of go out there and take care of Kylo once he was asked by Leia to go out there. So when they're setting up the plan, they're in the briefing room and they're trying to figure out how to blow this thing up. And he says, "Well, it's big. You blow it up, okay?" And Leia says, "Well, how are you going to do that?" He says, "Well, it's best that you don't know." And but he's a little concerned because he doesn't know how to bring back Ben to the light side because he's not a Jedi. What does he know? But Leia bolsters him up a little bit and says, "Well, you're the father. You're his father. You should know, be able to get right to him."
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a little bit of prodding on Leia's part to get him to go out and get Kylo to come back to the light side.
Yeah. I feel like Han Solo isn't exactly the confrontational type. judging by kind of how he and Leia let things go, they didn't really like work things out. Seemed like very well between episode or between the previous movies and then episodes 6 and 7. Then they didn't seem to confront the real issues of why they stopped talking to each other and things. And so I feel like Han isn't really that great at confrontation in general.
Well, I mean, if you compare Han in episode 7 to Han in episode 4 and episode 6, you realize how much of a character flip he's gotten. So he was very confrontational. I prefer a straight fight to all the sneaking around, that sort of thing.
No, that is a good point. In episode 4, he is up front, and he does kind of bang down the door and get stuff done. So I guess you do have a point there too. I guess maybe when it comes to like personal relationships, though, maybe that's a different story. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. He did kind of make a shift as he went through episodes 4 through 6. There was a definite shift there.
He definitely is not very good with personal relationships. I mean, think about smugglers. They're not very good with, they're trying to please everybody and mostly trying to please themselves. Right. So they're really thinking of themselves before other people. And when Leia tries to prod him to go after Ben, he sets aside his own personal desires and does what's best for everybody, or at least he tries to. So, I mean, it's a step in the right direction.
Exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I think when he said it's best that you don't know, like that could be a big hint that he knows what has to go down in order for Ben to get reached, and he doesn't want Leia to know what he's willing to give up for that to happen.
Right.
Yeah, so I like that one. I also, I feel like once they showed that big shot of the whole like big chasm with the bridge going across and how Han Solo and Kylo Ren had to walk and meet each other in the middle of it, you kind of knew one of them was going to fall off.
Right.
Like how could you have a scenario like that and not have that happen? I just kind of had to giggle and say, someone is going to die here, and I don't know which one yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be the one that's not a Jedi, or at least, not using the Force and stuff. So I had a feeling that Han Solo was going to go down there.
Well, it's a bit of an homage to The Empire Strikes Back, when Vader offers Luke the chance to change the galaxy.
Oh, totally.
And Han Solo goes onto the railing there and offers Kylo Ren the chance to, come back and change the galaxy again. Mm-hmm. And instead of the protagonist there of sorts dying or falling off the cliff, it's the antagonist that manages to hold on. Mm-hmm. I flipped that, whatever.
Yeah,
but
I know what you meant.
I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Instead of the antagonist dying, it's the protagonist.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
yeah.
Yep.
So I see that, and it's to me that seems like a theme throughout Star Wars, is that they like to flip flop things a little bit, where it's like, well, you've got a Skywalker on the light side, and you've got a Skywalker on the dark side in Kylo Ren, because he's a Skywalker technically with Leia. So, we got the flip-flopping going on. I feel like Star Wars does that in a poetic way, and that might be kind of what they were trying to show there, Mm-hmm. So, yeah, very definitely. Well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I also noticed that when Kylo actually did give him the go with his lightsaber, Han's face was not exactly surprised looking. It was like, oh wow, I'm in pain, but it wasn't necessarily like, how could you have done this? I was totally expecting to just take your lightsaber and throw it in the chasm.
Right.
Like, no, it wasn't that face. It was all right, this is it.
Yeah, I sacrificed myself for the better of the cause. Mm-hmm. Like, if this distracts you long enough, then so be it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I've heard also that this is this was one of the ways that Han Solo was hoping to help his son start to see the light again, because they had that conversation where it's like you still have light in you. I know you do. Why? What do you need to do to help see that? And then Kylo asked him to help him, and then we know obviously what happened. But
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that Ben really, it's going to haunt him. It's going to haunt him for the rest of his life that he killed his dad. And if you sneak peek at the trailer, he's going to try and kill his mom at the same time.
Right.
He's going to try to do that. But like it's going to haunt Ben, and that haunting is what it could go either way. It could go for totally dark side and forget the light, or at the end of being on the dark side, he turns light.
Right.
We'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll touch on that later, because I think this has a lot to do with what Kylo/Ben will end up doing in The Last Jedi. Because depending on what effect this has on him, it could turn him either way.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that that has a lot to do with it. And then I guess one of the other things as an evidence for the fact that Han Solo probably knew it was coming is his last little conversation with Leia. To me, it kind of almost sounded like he was saying goodbye without actually saying goodbye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very much of an alluding, kind of like when Lando and Han said their goodbyes towards the end of Episode VI.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck, you too. It wasn't like, oh, well, I might not ever see you again. Good luck with trying to blow up the base. And we had some good times, didn't we? It's almost like, yep, I'm remembering all the times. That's all I got going with you moving forward, because I'm not coming back, and you know that.
Yeah, it's acknowledging, both of them. In Episode VI, they were acknowledging what they both already knew, and so they didn't need to say it. They just, they're just like, all right, I wish you good luck, onward. And I think Han was kind of hoping that Leia wouldn't exactly notice that when he was saying, we've had some good times, haven't we? And maybe he was kind of thinking she would hope that he was probably hoping that she wouldn't necessarily notice that he was saying goodbye. He was just bringing up like, hey, we've had some good times. Things have been good for us in the past. And just kind of casually making conversation or something. But yeah, but I think that's a huge pointer, especially rewatching that movie. It's a huge arrow pointing toward that he probably did know. But what good would this theory be if there weren't any pieces of evidence against it, that he didn't know that he was going to die? Because I didn't expect him to die until he was on that bridge. I had no thought whatsoever, and maybe you had different thoughts than I did, but I was not expecting him to. I was, even after he got stabbed with the lightsaber, I was like, oh, he's gonna pull through, and then he fell down, and I'm like, okay, never mind. So there has to be some evidence against it, because as a watcher, I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming. And so I'm thinking like maybe his face when the lightsaber went through him, maybe Han was trying to hide his surprise from Ben, and his son seeing him in his last moments. He didn't want Ben, his son, to see him that way. He wanted to see him as a strong man and say like, okay, well, obviously I'm done for, but I'm not going to look surprised because I want to be a man here. And I don't know. That's just kind of thought process going there, but
I mean, it was he crashed the ship. I'm all for that he knew that he was going to die. I didn't see it coming right away myself, but I know that Harrison Ford does not like Star Wars at all.
Yeah,
so I knew that it was going to come at some point. So I knew that was going to be coming at some point. But there's a possibility that he didn't know he was going to die. But in the little bits of conversation that he had with John Boyega's character Finn, he kind of alluded, oh, the little bit of a smirk there anytime he had a conversation with them.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get him out. Don't worry. We'll figure this out. Hey, my friend's got some explosives here. I think we should go blow something up.
Right. With his Han Solo-ishness, you know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he definitely had that. Like, I know what's really going on here, especially talking to Finn. Finn was great though. Like, he was kind of on the oblivious side of things, which was fun to see. And you know, it was just I think Han Solo was using that to help us kind of hope that he wasn't going to go to his death.
Right.
You know?
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And then another thing I thought of, which I already mentioned, was like, wouldn't Kylo Ren killing Han Solo, wouldn't that help Kylo Ren go further toward the dark side? Like, isn't using the Force, or just killing in general, is using the Force to kill or killing, isn't that part of the dark side? Like, you wouldn't willingly use Force against somebody unless you defend yourself if you're a light side Jedi, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I was thinking, is wouldn't Kylo doing that like further his path toward the dark side? Then that's the opposite of what Han Solo would have wanted. And so that's where that's where a piece of confusion is for me right there.
Well, maybe that's a bit of fatherly wisdom that he's trying to pass on. You have to go through the sludge and the dark side before you come out on top on the light side again.
Sure.
And maybe killing him was to help him realize his humanity still.
Oh, yeah.
And making him realize, hey, I'm going to haunt you. Like, this is going to bother you for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to have to struggle with this for a little while yet.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Is like, yeah, he was probably trying to show Ben that he still is human, you know, even though he said Ben's dead, I'm Kylo Ren, you know, like, Ben might not be all that dead. We'll see about that, you know, like, I think that is a really good point in showing him that he's not who he thinks he is yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I do think overall we haven't talked to the writers, the directors, or anybody like that. But I think we have some pretty solid evidence that he probably knew what he was getting himself into. Han Solo did. So yeah, and then that kind of leads us into what expectations or theories or predictions we might have about The Last Jedi, starting with, will Kylo be light side or dark side? Will he start going by Ben Solo? I mean,
sure.
let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, if this really bothers him and he goes light side, I mean, it's a good possibility. But I don't think that would be made known until the last episode.
Probably.
Traditionally, the middle episodes of the trilogies are darker than the bookends of the trilogy.
Yeah, they're more dark side dominated and that sort of thing. Like, it's almost like they tend to be let the bad guys have their way a little bit, in a way, and then the like first and third ones tend to be the glory to the good side of thing. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So like this one, I think you're right that it will be darker, and you could kind of tell by looking at the trailers that it's. I mean, Snoke comes out and into the open instead of using that big holographic projection. So that's a big thing. But I guess it's going to be hard to say whether he goes light or dark side until the final episode of the trilogy. I guess you're right with that one. Yeah. But one big question that I've had, and I'm kind of really curious about, is, do we think Rey would be maybe a gray Jedi? Because she has a lot of tendencies of the dark side, but I don't think she has the heart of the dark side in her. Like to me, it seems like the way she uses the Force tends to be more dark side instinctually, but I think as a person, she is more of a light side in her heart. And so I feel like, to me, that conflict would cause her to be more of a gray Jedi.
That could be. I mean, when you look at the trailer, you get Luke's perspective on her training a little bit. Yeah. And how Luke wants to end the Jedi, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the pure light-sightedness of the Jedi is going to be a thing of the past, and it's going to be more of a balanced type Force user, kind of like what you would hear in Star Wars Legends or the old expanded universe.
Sure. Okay.
But Rey does have that kind of balance there, so maybe having a well-balanced Force user would be the better option.
Mm-hmm. I think it might be though. And I think when in the trailer we hear Luke saying that he's only seen raw strength like that one time before, and he's scared of it. Maybe he doesn't know how to train a gray Jedi. And so
that's very true. Yeah.
So maybe he just doesn't know what to do with that and say like, well, I was trained by like Yoda, who is like the whitest or, like the most pure light side Jedi ever, and he was just very, very traditional, straightforward and like I said, pure. So maybe he's just thinking like, I don't know what to do with you. And that kind of scares me because I don't want to mess it up and turn you into something that you're not. And I don't know, maybe the once before he saw, the strength that he saw once before was Kylo Ren. And that, and he messed him up unintentionally.
So, there's many theories about where Rey comes from, whether she's a descendant of Kenobi or she's a descendant of Palpatine, or whatever the case may be. But there's a lot of unfilled gaps that are still in between 6 and 7, as far as episodes go. So we don't know all the stories yet, as much as they're coming out. But when you watch the second trailer and you watch the power that Rey has when she's using the Force, even just minimally, it almost harkens, and I hate to say this, but it almost harkens to Palpatine's power. I mean, if you think about it, Palpatine could just whisk things away just by his finger. He could choke lightning out of somebody just by sheer will. And Luke experienced that firsthand. So
and maybe that's the power he was talking about.
It could be
instead of Kylo's power. Maybe it was Palpatine's power that he saw and was like, whoa, that didn't scare me enough, but I see it now and this is terrifying. And so, I mean, maybe that's it too. I have no idea. And maybe we won't even find out whose descendant Rey really is until the third movie anyways, or I guess the 9th, the third one of this trilogy here. I don't know. But I know people are dying to know where she comes from, and I'm really curious to see how her character plays out. And I want to know, because she says in one of the trailers, I need someone to show me my place in all this, and I want to know who she's talking to, like really badly, because they make it look like it's Kylo, but I'm pretty sure it's not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a little bit of editing on filmmakers' part there to kind of get you to think about it,
right?
But yeah, I think she's talking to Luke, and that
could be
when she says that.
Yeah, could be.
Really
Who knows? It could be a line really early on in the movie. Like maybe that's the first thing she says to him, and then like they go on from there and say a lot of other things. Who knows? But
I'll be soaking it all in when I go watch it.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, exactly.
We'll
Yep, taking notes, right?
Exactly. That's how this works.
Yeah. So yeah, you mentioned earlier when we were talking about, so Kylo Ren knew that he needed to kill his father in order to do complete part of his training and so on. And then you talked about in the trailer, he talks about killing his past, and it looks like he's going to probably kill his mother in this next movie here. You think that he for sure is going to kill her, or will he maybe not? Or is he, maybe he's talking about when he says, let the past die, is he talking about a person, or is he talking about events? He could be talking about anything. It's kind of vague. And the way they do the visual editing, they want you to think he's going to go kill Leia. they want you to think
right.
that.
Right. Well, he's what's the thing that the First Order wants you to do? The First Order is trying to wipe out the Republic. They're trying to bring back the Empire. What did the Empire do? They wiped out the past of the Old Republic, the Jedi, everything. There was nothing left of the Old Republic or the Jedi. The First Order is doing the exact same thing. And so, yeah, that line might not actually go with that shot. And maybe he's just talking about the rebellion and his mom in general.
Could be.
And the Jedi. But I do think he is trying to kill his mom in that scene, or he's trying to kill somebody that he used to love.
Yeah.
And to keep him on his quest towards the dark side.
Well, and I think it would kind of bring completion, because if he has one parent dead and one parent alive, that doesn't feel complete to me.
Right.
I feel like, using the Force is a lot about having things finished and whole. And if it's unfinished, then it's disjointed. And so I think having the job done means to him, both parents are going to be gone. So,
right.
And then that would kind of seal the deal as far as him going one way or the other, whichever way that is. So yeah, and it could, again, if he does go ahead and kill his mother in episode 8 here, maybe that'll seal the deal for him going back to the light side and realizing just how human he really is, and how he doesn't need to use the dark side. So it could be, I don't know. Or well, like we said earlier, it could just really close everything off to him and say, all right, I'm officially dark side. This is it.
Right. Well, to bring back an older theory, like the whole reason that the Jedi and the Sith were around and they were killing each other was, they hated each other. They're on opposite sides of the coin. And the reason Anakin was to bring balance to the Force, he did that by killing off all the Jedi and then killing off Palpatine and himself dying, so that the balance was brought back to in the Force again.
Right.
So when we meet Kylo and we meet Rey, we're meeting new generations of Force users who have a little bit of both that they're struggling with.
Yeah.
Kylo's mostly dark, but he's got some light side, and Rey is mostly light, but she's got some dark side to her. You got that balance there.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be a little bit more friendly with each other, but they're going to be still enemies at some point too. So it's almost like honorable enemies of some sort.
Sure, yeah. Like they acknowledge each other's power and strength, but they agree to be on opposite sides, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is also interesting too. So yeah, I think, and we also talked about the gray Jedi thing, because I think, like you mentioned, the Force having balance in it is a really big key. And so I think if the Jedi were to be more of a middle of the road kind of deal, as far as being a gray Jedi, I think that would be overall a better route, because then they would have a good balance, and like you mentioned with Anakin, I forget who it was that said it in the movie, but he was the one that apparently was prophesied to bring balance to the Force. And of course, all the Jedi on the light side thought it was going to mean that he was going to be the best light-sided Jedi ever. But that's not really balance. That's just giving more power to the light side and less power to the dark side. So actually having balance, like you mentioned, means wiping everything out in its current order and starting again, basically.
Right.
So yeah, so I think that's actually a really, really good point that you brought up Anakin's story too. So yeah. All right. And so also we know that we will meet Snoke, because there is actually a shot of Snoke's actual face, and also some possible like corners of his robe and stuff like that. Do we think he's going to be training somebody, or is he just going to be kind of commanding the First Order and maybe like having a couple encounters with key characters?
Well, I think he's going to be training Kylo. Okay. Why? Because he said right at the end of episode 7 that he wanted General Hux to bring Kylo so that he could finish his training right as the planet was exploding.
Yep.
So I really think that this is going to be the finishing touches of that training.
Sure.
And if you think, just brain spasm here. Think about this for a second. When Kylo is being trained under Snoke, and Kylo's trying to kill off his parents, and Snoke wants him to complete those steps to the dark side, it's kind of the foil to Yoda training Luke, and Yoda telling Luke to go kill his father because it's his final step to becoming a Jedi. So it's almost just like, well, we're seeing the mirror of the other side here. So I that's my theory.
Yeah, no,
we'll find out.
That you're bringing up again the fact that the Star Wars fandom and that whole universe, the Star Wars universe, just loves to make mirrors of itself. And like you said, when something happens on the light side, something echoes on the dark side in the same way. And so, like they do the poetic flip-flopping and the reversal of roles and that sort of thing. And I think you have a really good point with that. Yeah. So you could be right. We'll see. Either way, I'm really excited to see it. We just got our tickets. So my husband and I are going to be going, nice. And that's going to be awesome. And, so really excited. We'll be doing a bonus episode about The Last Jedi as well. So that's going to be super fun. So we're going to be putting that out as soon as my husband and I can see it, and then I can get a chance to make an episode for everyone to listen to. So that's awesome. But that's, I guess, all we've got to talk about for this episode. So thank you so much, Danny, for being on the show and sharing your excellent insight. I'm really glad that you were able to bring a lot of backstory into the new movies for us, because that really, really helps to understand what's going on now, especially since the Star Wars universe, like it mirrors itself so much, and we were able to kind of point that out a lot. And I really think looking back at some of the older movies, that shows a lot of what the newer ones are kind of trying to do in a the opposite way, but without giving details away, which is cool too. So so thank you so much. And share your thoughts, everyone, about Star Wars, the Han Solo theory, or if you want to share also your theories or your predictions about Last Jedi, you can share that on our Facebook page, which is beauties-headcanons, or we've got a Twitter now, which is brand new. Brand spanking new. We've got maybe like 2 tweets out. It's at beauties_canons. And our Tumblr is beauties-and-headcanons, all one word. It's all words. So it's just beauties-and-headcanons on Tumblr. You can also tune in next week and every Friday. Next week is on how to watch Firefly. So I love Firefly. It's a fantastic show. And so I'm going to have my friend Melissa on with me next week. You can also subscribe to us on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and on iTunes. We'd love a review from all you listeners, so that and a rating, so that we can see how we're doing and how better tailor our episodes to what you guys want to hear. Also, then a huge thank you to Public House Media for making the show possible. Go ahead and check them out on Facebook, on Twitter at @ThePHmedia, or their website, www.thephmedia.com, and stay up to date on this podcast and also on the network. I'm Emily, and thanks again for getting nerdy with us on Beauties and Headcanons.